Hi guys, I'm going to chat to you about why I think the property market is going to continue to boom off next in 2022, but not rightly so from the dwelling commencements or completions, and why this data is important. So the units commenced, and this is units themselves across Australia, and I'll be focusing on the whole of Australia, not drilling down into each state or capital city. But just overall, you got a huge uptake in units commenced, and that's off the back of what was happening at the start of 2021, where the property market started to boom, people started to transact again because more confidence was in the market about where it was heading. So you got this huge spike in dwelling commencements, and this is attached, so dwelling units commenced. And you can see that there was a huge spike during COVID and we were quite low with dwelling commencements. So keep in mind, this is 6 months ago. So if you got units commenced 6 months ago, most of those will be coming off the back end now. And that's units themselves. When you look at private homes, similar sort of thing, except it's a little bit more emphasized, so the uptake was huge, and I mean that was off the back of home builder grant, as was the units as well. So home builder grant obviously got extended. It started at the start of 2021 and then got extended a bit longer, and it's actually still extended into 2022. So a lot of these will be off the back of the stimulus money, and obviously trying to boost Australia's economy. This is dwelling commencements. So you're talking about units and new houses. The data is 6 months old, and then keep in mind that these dwellings will be pretty much complete at this point in time. So the end of 2021, they'll pretty much be complete. So fast forward 6 months and you have a look at the building approvals. So I wanted to talk about the dwelling commencements and now look at the approvals. So you've still got the peak of the approvals. So you kind of like March, April 21, which sort of coincides with that massive uptake in dwelling commencements. So what we are going to see over the next little bit, or the next release of data, is that those dwelling commencements will have reduced. May not be by a huge amount, but up till December 2021, those dwelling commencements will have reduced and then further reduce into 2022. Off the back of dwelling approvals being reduced. So I'm sure you might have heard that dwelling approvals, when this data got released only a few weeks ago, dwelling approvals were down quite substantially. So people were talking, or economists were talking about that being the peak in the market. So we're coming off the peak. We did have quite a big uptick in values, as you know, in building construction. But what we're heading for in 2022 is a lower volume of construction. Now that is not going to mean that building prices necessarily are going to come back. You might see some labor costs start to come back, but what the biggest pinch point is at the moment is actually the material supply, which looks like it's not going to slow down for at least another 12 months. And that's off the back of logistics around the world being affected as a result of COVID. So dwelling approvals are down, and we'll probably see when they release the next set of data at the end of 2021, as in for the end of 21, we'll see this probably drop or at least stay the same. So you might be dropping back to like June 2020 levels with building approval. So, which is still, when you look at like even 07, we're still quite above that. Obviously we've got population increase, and that makes a big difference as well. But keep in mind, we haven't had any overseas migration. So around the cities, in particular Sydney and Melbourne, there's a lot of vacancy rates in the city. Brisbane, not so much, because a lot of people have traveled and moved interstate into Brisbane. But those bigger capital cities still have a lot of vacancy in the city itself. So multi-unit dwellings, you're probably not going to see a huge amount of those getting built over the next few years in those cities. Brisbane is the exception to that, as is Perth. So what's in store for at least Brisbane is a whole lot of construction about to happen or about to kick off in the next 6 to 12 months in that multi-res space. but for the rest of Australia, it's a little bit more bleak, I believe. So that's the dwelling approvals. And I mean, if you have a look at state by state, you can still see Queensland is tracking a little bit higher in terms of the number of houses, and this is till October 2021, and then a little bit higher with number of units. So just on that, Queensland obviously has had a little bit of an increase. If you look at other states, you can see the trend that everyone knows now. People have moved out of the city and want to move into a home on land. You can see that the monthly change in Victoria for homes, so private sector houses, is up 6%. Dwelling unit approvals are down. New South Wales, it's even more evident. So dwelling unit approvals are hugely down, massive. But yet homes sort of are staying stable. So what I think is in store for 2022, I think that we might see this probably stay the same, as in keep the same level in New South Wales. Homes might be the same or probably a bit less off the back. So these might actually drop. And I believe Queensland will probably drop slightly as well, but I think New South Wales and Victoria, those two are going to see at least some minor drops, if not some significant drops in certain places. Whereas Queensland, I think, will tick along pretty well. As with Perth as well. Perth, you can see there's a huge amount of increase in private sector houses. Units, again, were down a little bit, but Perth, off the last statistics that I saw, had an undersupply, and they have gone through a property boom, which looks to be a very short cycle boom. But we may see some more building approvals coming out of Perth because of their undersupply. So I hope that's given you an insight into what's in store for 2022. If you're looking at putting an application for a property to get built, just keep in mind there will still be supply issues into 2022. Building costs are up from their previous levels. If you want to check the latest building costs, I'd obviously check that with one of your local builders or multiple local builders, see if they can get material supply. Generally, the bigger builders are able to get that. But if you're looking at building in 2022, keep this in the back of your mind, and good luck with your projects. If there's any comments or anything you want to know more of from this video, please throw me a comment or send us an email direct. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great one.